I will not let you go until you bless me. And God said to him, what is your name? And he says, Jacob. And he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed. This is fascinating to me. You've struggled with God and with men, and you have prevailed. The reality is that God prevailed. God prevailed in Jacob's life, but because Jacob allowed God to prevail in his life, Jacob prevailed. Jacob won. And now God is going to transform Jacob's life so much so that it's going to be called by another name. You're no longer Jacob. You're no longer the supplanter. You're no longer the deceiver. But now you are Israel, which means God prevails. So Jacob called the name of the place Penuel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life was preserved. The name Penuel means literally face of God. The face of God. What you need in your life is to experience the face of God, to see God face to face. I'm going to go back to Ephesians chapter 3 and then I'm done. Ephesians chapter 3, I want you to look at this, verse number 20. We read all this. Ephesians 3, verse 20. Now to him who's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. You know, we quote this verse oftentimes, and I believe that what we're quoting, the reason we quote is because we want God to do above and beyond all that we are praying for, which He does. We've reminisced many times about when we were looking for a building. We wanted the bank downtown where they just put the dominoes in. Like, we prayed for that building. Listen, that building would fit in this room, the whole thing. Then we moved up the road a little bit, the realtor office now. It used to be an archery range in there. We were like, well, it's a little bit bigger. God's like, what are you doing? What are you asking for? Come on, if you're going to ask God for something, make it big. Because if you can do it in your own strength, you don't need Him anyway. Ask Him for what you can't handle. Ask Him for something bigger than what you really need. But oftentimes we quote this verse in that context. God's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. We say all that we ask or pray for. That's not what it's saying. According to the power that works in us. Can I tell you what it means? As you begin to know the love of God, and as you begin to be filled with all the fullness of God, and the transforming power of the Holy Spirit begins to transform you into something that is above all that you could ever imagine or hope for. It's not about what God does for you, it's about what He's doing in you. But you have to give yourself to it. Jacob had to give himself to the wrestling match. Jacob had to give himself to the clinging, and that's where the transforming power of God came from. Come on, we're all so desperate for God to do something for us. How about you get desperate for God to do something in you? Change me, God. It's like the Pharisee and the tax collector that come before the altar, and the Pharisee's like, God, I'm so thankful that I'm nothing like this guy. And there's the tax collector over there beating his chest and saying, God, forgive a sinner like me. Don't be like the Pharisee, puffed up with knowledge, knowing everything about God, but not knowing God at all. Be like the tax collector. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Will you stand?